So, what is going on, guys? I am Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another Zombies video, back with another Q&A, taking your questions from the comment section below to do with the zombie storyline, Easter eggs, and answering them. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, you know what to do. Drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest Zombies content. But, without further ado, let's get into it. Here we go. So the first question of today from Saul Hernandez says, "Hey BOA, love your videos, keep up the great work. What happened to the people in World at War Zombies? And why did the original 4 characters come into Shi No Numa and not Verrückt or Nacht der Untoten?" So there are 2 different questions there. The first one, what happened to the World at War Zombies characters? I assume you mean the other characters that we played as, that weren't Ultimus, in the maps Nacht der Untoten and Verrückt, since after that in Shi No Numa and Der Riese, we played as the OG4. What happened to those soldiers or marines that we played as in Nacht and Verrückt? Well, we know they aren't the same set of characters, they are different. In Nacht der Untoten, we played as 4 marines, who we don't know the names of. However, we know this scenario happened because Nacht der Untoten takes place in an abandoned airfield on June the 4th, 1945, where an Allied plane malfunctioned over the airfield. It came crashing down into some German army trucks that were transporting the undead and Element 115 between Group 935 research facilities. The plane crashed into the trucks, which caused the 115 and the undead to merge, creating zombies, and the only 4 survivors of this crash, who were 4 marines, had to hold out against the undead in the Nacht der Untoten bunker. As to what happened to them, well, it's never officially been spoken about. However, we can assume that they died. Coming against endless waves of the undead, we know that there is no Easter egg on Nacht der Untoten, so we have to assume that eventually they did get overrun. So those characters were just 4 random marines, we don't know their names. However, the next map on Verrückt, we play as 4 different marine characters, who we do know the names of, and they were Tank Dempsey, John Banana, Smokey, and the 4th one is unknown. But those characters were sent to Verrückt by their handler, Cornelius Perlum, to rescue Peter McCain. We know that Peter infiltrated the Verrückt asylum to spy on Group 935. He was believed to have been captured, and so Dempsey and his marines were sent in to save him. But as we know, when they got there, the facility had been overrun by zombies. Peter was already gone, and so the 4 marines, once again, were left by themselves to fight off against the undead. We know from a radio message that one of the marines, being Smokey, had become infected and turned into a zombie, and undead Smokey then began to eat John Banana.
Field report. A quiet retort. The mission has all gone south. It's Johnny here. Smokey is near, most likely with meat in his mouth. We've been here for ages. I ran out of pages, but now have a mic to record. The mission has failed. McCain must have bailed, and now we must fight off a horde. We came to Verrückt with low ammo and luck, and now Smokey's lost his head. We went down the halls, they bit Smokey's balls, and now he walks with the dead. They call me Banana, I worked at a cabana. I rhyme to keep myself sane. Though Smokey is dead, I'm holding his head, which right now is eating my brain.
So we know at least 2 of the characters died. As to what happened for the unknown marine, we don't know. And we also know that Dempsey was captured by Group 935, so that's what happened to the characters in Verrückt. 3 of them died, unless the unknown one managed to escape somehow, although that doesn't seem likely, and the 4th one, Tank Dempsey, was captured by Group 935. You also say in your question, why did the original 4 characters come in Shi No Numa and not Verrückt or Nacht der Untoten? I've basically just answered that in the last one. They simply weren't part of that storyline or part of those maps. There was no need for them to go there, so that's why. The next question from Caleb Cordell says, and can I just quickly say something? If one of these questions is yours in any Q&A video, sometimes I screenshot these questions and can get around to answering them, sometimes a week later, a month later. Some of these questions could be like 2 years old. That's a bit over exaggerating, but 2 months. So if you have asked a question and you haven't seen me answer it, there's usually a couple of reasons. Either 1, I will eventually get around to it. I could have it saved and I will answer it eventually. 2, I simply haven't seen it. There are so many questions. A lot of them I just don't get the chance to read. Or 3, I've probably already answered it somewhere. Maybe you've missed the video or someone else has asked that question before and I've answered it. That's usually one of the reasons. But like I said, Caleb says, "Hey BOA, whatever happened to the Call of the Dead crew? love the vids. So in Call of the Dead, we know that Richtofen and the crew, Takeo, Dempsey and Nikolai, travelled to the Siberian facility to collect the golden rod. They were supposed to collect it themselves. However, we know that Richtofen got his teleportation calculations incorrect, and although him and the crew were teleported to the facility, they actually accidentally trapped themselves inside of a closet. They were trapped behind a large metal door, and so unable to collect the golden rod for themselves, we know they asked the Call of the Dead crew, who, luckily for them, at this same time, when they travelled here, were recording one of George A. Romero's latest movies, which coincidentally was a zombies movie. As we saw from the Call of the Dead intro, a real zombie outbreak happens in Call of the Dead. This is because wherever Richtofen and the crew travelled to, Samantha would send zombies after them to whatever location they went to in an attempt to kill them. And so since Richtofen and the crew went to Call of the Dead, that's where Samantha sent the zombies. A zombie outbreak happened. We can see they end up taking over the facility. George A. Romero gets stolen and turned into one of them. And then it's up to the crew of Sarah Michelle Gellar, Robert Englund, Danny Trejo and Michael Rooker to survive against the undead. And so since the Ultimus crew are trapped behind a door and can't do anything, they ask the Call of the Dead crew to help them collect the golden rod, which is exactly what they do. They retrieve it, they give it to the Ultimus crew through a hole leading to the other side of the door. Once Richtofen and the crew have it, they then leave and teleport to Shangri-La, leaving Sarah and the other three characters trapped in Siberia. So, to answer your question, what happens to them? Well, again, from a radio message and also in the Chronorium, we learn that after Call of the Dead, these characters were never seen again by anyone. There is a radio message in Revelations where we're told by a woman that goes by the name of Sally. We've never heard of this woman before. Some people do mistake her for Sarah, but this woman's different. This is Sally, who was George A. Romero's assistant. But she basically says in this radio message that the Call of the Dead cast and crew, being Sarah, Robert, Danny and Michael, and also George, the cameraman and everyone else, since travelling to Siberia, they haven't been seen for 6 weeks now.
It's been 6 weeks since the rest of the Call of the Dead cast and crew went missing. Hollywood's lost its fucking mind with this story. An entire production vanishes? Crazy talk. I told you, this is why you don't shoot in Siberia. So with Agent on line 1, Manager on line 2, I needed to sort this quickly. I'd rather zombies come for me than an agent. That's real horror. I don't need that.
Of course, we know that they were caught up in the zombie outbreak. It doesn't seem like Hollywood knows that. So I believe there are two possible outcomes. One, which I think is more likely. The Call of the Dead crew did die. They were eventually overrun by the zombies once Ultimus left and were killed. Or they could have managed to escape. And since they were shooting in Siberia, which is basically out in the wilderness with a blizzard going on, they wouldn't have been able to get very far. They could still be trapped there or could have escaped the facility, but I doubt they would have got very far. They could literally be lost in the wilderness in Siberia still alive. We really don't know. And if that was the case, they have been missing for 6 weeks. If they were alive, surely they would have heard something. I don't think they would survive that long on their own, even if they did manage to defeat the zombies. Because as we also know, once Richtofen and the crew left Call of the Dead, the zombies would have gone not too long after. So the Call of the Dead crew wouldn't have been fighting the zombies forever. They would have eventually left. So there is a chance that they could have survived. They could still be out there. If that is the case, where we don't know. Let me know your thoughts about that one down in the comment section below. Like I said, a lot of people get Sally mixed up with Sarah. They are different people. And what we also know, it's quite interesting, but as Sally began to search for her boss, as she began digging through his research, we know that George was obsessed with zombies, and he was looking into things such as the Ether and Shangri-La, all these mythical places. As Sally began to look into her boss's research in order to find him, we know it eventually led her to Shangri-La during the eclipse, where she accidentally traps herself in the same loop, in the same cycle that Brock and Gary were in, which sends her back in time from 2011 to 1956, which meant Sally was now living in the same cycle, trapped with Brock and Gary in Shangri-La. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting one. We don't actually know what happened to the Call of the Dead crew. Mr. Cranky says, what is your favourite COD Zombies and which Call of Duty would you like to see remastered? So my favourite COD Zombies is definitely Black Ops 3. I mean, they're all good, but Black Ops 3 was definitely the best. It's got some of the best maps, in my opinion, in my top 5. Dreisendrache, Shadows of Evil. Okay, I don't think Zetsubo no Shima was too good, but Garen Kurovi and Revelations were okay. But it wasn't just about the maps, it was the overall feel, feel, the smoothness of it. It was definitely my favourite time for zombies. But if you're talking about a Call of Duty overall, being campaign, multiplayer and whatever the extra game mode is, I think my favourite COD was probably Black Ops 2. The multiplayer on that was definitely my favourite. The campaign was fun, zombies was good. I also really enjoyed MW3 if we're talking about just multiplayer. And then of course there's Black Ops 1, which had a great multiplayer, zombies and campaign. It's so difficult, there's so many. Honestly, I really wouldn't know. Could I have all of them? Let me know which one you would have down below. But anyway guys, there we go. That is all I have for you for today's video. As always, hopefully you have enjoyed. If you have, you know what to do. Drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, goodbye.